Welcome, dear students. Today we have to discuss about steps for maintenance of genetic purity of crop varieties. Whenever you are in seed production program, whatever seed you are producing, the quality seeds, you must understand that how can you maintain the genetic purity of your variety, whatever variety you are producing. So what are those steps? We can discuss one by one. The first one is isolation. This is very important. You see that this you can say it is by definition you can say the isolation. It is a separation of your seed field from the field of other varieties of the same crop to avoid particularly the unwanted cross pollination as well as the mechanical mixtures of the seeds. That is called isolation. So isolation, there are different types of isolation. Particularly the best isolation is the isolation distance. When you are maintaining the distance between the fields of your seed variety with other varieties of the same crop. So that is the best isolation. So you can see here what are the types of isolation? The spatial isolation, temporal isolation, physical isolation or physical barriers. In physical barriers, live fencing and other physical barriers. So if you talk about isolation, spatial isolation, this is dealing that this is separating your seed field by growing the with distance, you can say. So that is called isolation distance, the spatial space differences. The space differences between the seed crop from the other varieties of the same crop. So particularly this is the best way of isolation to avoid the chance of unwanted cross pollination as well as avoid the chance of mixing of seed of other crop varieties nearby grown in nearby fields. So what should be the criteria of distance between the varieties? The criteria must be, you must look into it. The foremost is the avoiding the cross pollination. Means you see, if it is self pollinated crop, so distance, because self pollination is occurring, then the chances of traveling of pollen grains pollinating your seed crop, this chances is very low. As you know that in case of self-pollinated crops, up to 5% cross-pollination is going on. Say for example in rice. So in self-pollinated crops, we are usually keeping 3 meters of distance from other varieties of your seed field from all the sides. It should be at least minimum. This is the minimum distance. This isolation distance is the minimum distance of your seed field from other varieties of the same crop to avoid the chance of cross pollination, unwanted cross pollination, you can say. And avoiding the mixing of the seeds from other varieties. So it is minimum, usually 3 meter distance is okay in case of self-pollinated crops. All self-pollinated, whether wheat or your this rice or pea or chickpea, all these. But particularly, say if you are moving towards the often cross pollination, the distance will be longer, maybe 200 meters, 400 meters. Depending upon the class of seed also, the distance is changing. Higher the class of seed, higher the distance. Lower the class of seed, lower the distance, you can say. If it is breeder seed, it will require higher distance. If it is foundation seed, little lesser than the breeder seed. If it is certified seed, maybe little more lesser. Or generally we are keeping the distance of foundation seed and certified seed equally. Say for example, if for breeder seed, in case of maize, if you are putting 400 meter, so for foundation seed and certified seed, it may be 200 meter distance, minimum distance with other varieties. So you see, it is depending upon, the distance is depending upon particularly the type of crop, whether it is self-pollinated, often cross-pollinated or cross-pollinated. It is changing, as well as whether it is breeder seed, nucleus seed, breeder seed, foundation seed, certified seed. If higher the class, higher is better, the breeder seed, then the foundation seed, then the certified seed. So distance will be more. So you have to, there is a table, minimum seed standard, in minimum seed standard rules, table is there for every crop. The isolation distance, minimum isolation distance is there. I may be giving you later on the whole list, or I will be referring the book from where you can take that isolation distance for different crops. So this is coming spatial, the distance, isolation distance, the spatial isolation. Then come the temporal. It's time isolation, you can say. The temporal is the time isolation. If you are unable to meet the criteria of the isolation distance because other farmers are growing, so your field is in such a position where you cannot make the distance, so you go for time isolation. So means difference in time of sowing of your seed crop with the crop of same crop, other varieties of the same crop grown nearby. So you have to adjust accordingly. This is around 21 to 30 days depending upon the crops. You have to adjust accordingly. It takes around 21 to 30 days if you are differentiating between some farmers have grown their crop. So you are going to grow your seed crop. If it is the different varieties, so you wait for some time, 21 days or 30 days, so that let the crop grow and flower earlier than your flowering comes. So there should not be synchronization of the flowering. So this is temporal. You can adjust by sowing timing. Then physical barriers, isolation through physical barriers. As I have said already in my previous lecture, the live fencing. Say for example, fast growing taller plants, if you are growing in dense, through all the sides in your crop field, maybe 5 meters wide, Sesbania is grown in your rice field, that will be checking the cross pollination from other varieties to your variety. So live fencing also can be used if you are not able to adjust the temporal or not able to adjust with the spatial. Then you can go for physical barriers like live fencing, like Sisbania we are using in many cases. The other physical barriers can also be used. If you are unable to do this live fencing, then you can arrange some metal fencing by putting the boards out in all the sides, or you can grow your material in net house, as in case of pigeon pea it is done, because insects are pollinating, cross pollinating. Because of that, this is becoming often cross pollinated, the pigeon pea, though it is self fertile, self pollinated, but it becomes often cross pollinated because of visit of the insects. So generally we are growing this in the, for breeder seed and nucleus seed, we are growing it in the net houses. For more, you cannot do that, so you have to adjust accordingly. So metal can be used for fencing, or net house can be used for fencing, or other things can also be used for avoiding the cross pollination that is coming under physical barriers. So this is all about your isolation. Here I want to say that self-pollinated crops, whether it is self-pollinated or cross-pollinated, once you are going for seed production of hybrids, whether self-pollinated or cross-pollinated, your isolation distance will be more. Because once you are going for hybrid seed production, say for example, if you are going for hybrid seed production in case of rice, which is self-pollinated, so you are using male sterile line and pollinator line, male fertile line, both. So once your male sterile line is here, this is ready to take any foreign pollen grains, whether it is coming from side or it is coming from long distances. It is ready to accept once you are using male sterile lines. So there will be 100 meters or 200 meters distance for isolation distance, though it is self-pollinated crop. So once you are going for hybrid seed production, the isolation distance, whether it is self-pollinated or cross-pollinated, it will be more. Then you come for genetic purity, you have to go for roguing. Roguing is the process, you can say, of identifying the off type of plants, or you can say unwanted plants, and remove them out from your seed field. This is called roguing. Whether it is off type plant of the same crop, off type plant maybe other crops, off type plant of weeds, noxious weeds, or diseased plant which is unwanted, all you have to remove. They all may be kept in roguing process. So you are keeping your crop variety pure. Because if it is off type of the same crop, other variety plant, then it will be pollinating your plant, cross-pollinating your plant. So you cannot see by eyes, it will mix it. So your crop variety will be deteriorated. If other crop seeds are there, noxious seeds are there, they will be mixing. They will create problem. So this is roguing. Then periodic testing of varieties for genetic purity. Yeah, once in 2 years or 3 years, you must ensure it through by producing nucleus seed, single panicle selection or single plant selection. You grow the rows of the single panicle, and then you see the differences coming in that. So in that way, you are going to periodic test for the particular of the varieties for genetic purity. So you have to do that also. Then next, avoiding genetic shift by growing seed crops in areas of its adaptation only, which I have already dealt earlier, that once the variety has been released for Uttar Pradesh and you are producing the seed in Hyderabad continuously for many generations, there will be genetic shift. The variety will get changed because of the adaptation in that area. They are adjusting it. So the same variety in due course of time, in few generations, you are going to have a different variety than your own variety. So try to produce your seed. If it has been released for Uttar Pradesh, you try to produce in Uttar Pradesh itself. If it has been released for Andhra Pradesh, you produce your seed in Andhra Pradesh itself, because this is the problem of genetic shift. So don't do that. Adopting the generation system, of course, this is very important. The generation system is what? The breeder seed, then foundation seed, then certified seed, and certified seeds are being given to the farmers for crop production. So from breeder seed, you go for foundation seed. Try not to grow the breeder seed from the breeder seed. This is the meaning of the generation system, because the genetic purity of the seed is deteriorating, you can say, in different generations. So if it is breeder seed, you use nuclear seed for producing the breeder seed. If you are willing to produce the foundation seed, then you take the breeder seed from foundation seed. If you are willing to produce foundation seed, doesn't mean that you take foundation seed for producing the foundation seed. This is the meaning, that you adopt properly the generation system. In very serious problem that can be used, the breeder seed is stage 1 to stage 2, or foundation seed is stage 1 to 2. That can be done in very problematic cases, but generally you don't do that. Then the grow out test. Of course, if some confusion is coming, then you take the sample and then grow it along with the authentic variety, the seed of authentic variety, grow side by side, and then you see the growing periods, you see the differences. If there is differences, it means your seed is impure. So this is all about the steps involved for maintaining the genetic purity. Thanking you very much for today's topic.